Welcome back to another episode of Humans Are Whack. And today, we're stepping inside the gym, a place where people come to get stronger, push their limits, and feel alive. But sometimes, even a place meant for health and progress can turn deadly, and all it takes is a single moment. On our first story for today is the tragic case of a man named Ronald Montenegro, a 55-year-old museum manager from Brazil. Ronald loved lifting. For him, the gym wasn't just a place to train. It was a sanctuary, a place where discipline and strength met. He had spent decades perfecting his technique, pushing heavier and heavier weights, always chasing that feeling of accomplishment that came with a personal best. One afternoon, Ronald decided to attempt a particularly heavy bench press. He set up the bar, positioned himself carefully, and gripped the cold steel with confidence. In his mind, this was just another lift, routine, controlled, familiar. But fate had other plans. As he lowered the bar, something went wrong. The weight slipped from his hands. A split second of chaos turned into tragedy as the barbell fell directly onto his chest. Panic, struggle, and then silence. Emergency services arrived quickly, but Ronald didn't survive. What makes his story so painful isn't that he was inexperienced, far from it. It's that a single oversight, a moment without a spotter, a moment of bad luck, can turn years of strength and dedication into heartbreak. The gym, like life, can be unforgiving in a single instant. On our second story for today is the heartbreaking case of a young woman named Yashtika Acharya, a 17-year-old powerlifting prodigy from India. Yashtika wasn't just any teenager. She was a rising star in the world of powerlifting, known for her incredible strength, discipline, and dedication. For her, the gym was a stage, and every lift was a step closer to greatness. One day, Yashtika prepared to attempt a record-breaking squat, a lift that would push her body to its limits. Her mind was focused, her technique honed, her determination unwavering. The weight felt familiar in her hands, the bar resting on her shoulders like it always had. But as she began the descent, something went wrong. The bar wobbled, her footing shifted. In a terrifying instant, the weight became uncontrollable. The bar fell, crushing her under its immense load. Coaches rushed to her aid, but despite their efforts, Yashtika didn't survive the accident. What makes Yashtika's story so devastating isn't just the tragic end of a promising young life. It's that even the most talented, disciplined, and prepared athletes are not immune to the dangers of pushing limits too far or relying on skill alone without perfect safety measures. Sometimes, a split second is all it takes. On our third story for today is the tragic case of a young man named Mohammed Farraj, a 21-year-old medical student from the UK. Mohammed was ambitious, disciplined, and passionate about fitness. For him, the gym was more than a place to exercise. It was a sanctuary, a way to challenge himself both physically and mentally. One day, Mohammed decided to try something different on the Smith machine. Instead of using it as intended, he improvised his setup, stepping onto a platform to reach heavier weights. It seemed harmless at first, a small adjustment to push his limits. But the consequences of that single choice were catastrophic. As he lifted, the bar slipped from its guides. In an instant, the heavy weight fell, trapping him beneath it. Shocked and struggling, he could not free himself. Emergency services arrived quickly, but tragically, Mohammed did not survive. What makes Mohammed's story so haunting is how easily it could have been prevented. The smallest deviation from proper form or safety measures can have devastating consequences. In the gym, as in life, shortcuts can turn routine actions into moments of irreversible tragedy. On our fourth story for today is the tragic case of a woman named Delrie Rosario, a 36-year-old mother of 4 from the United States. Delrie was a regular at her local gym, balancing her busy life with dedication to her health and fitness. For her, the gym was a place to recharge, to feel strong, and to claim a few hours just for herself. One afternoon, Delrie was on a treadmill, jogging steadily as she often did. The rhythmic hum of the machine and the familiar surroundings gave her a sense of comfort. This was routine, something she had done countless times before. But in a split second, routine became disaster. Delrie lost her balance, slipping on the treadmill. She fell awkwardly, hitting the floor, and despite immediate assistance from gym staff and paramedics, she did not survive. The accident shocked everyone who knew her, a reminder that even the most ordinary, everyday activities in a place we trust can turn fatal in a moment. What makes Delrie's story so painful is the unpredictability of life. No experience, no preparation, and no skill can fully protect against the unexpected. In the gym, as in life, vigilance and caution are essential every single second. On our fifth story for today is the tragic case of a young woman known only by her initials, FN, a 22-year-old from Indonesia. FN was a fitness enthusiast who loved spending time at her local gym, always pushing herself to improve her strength and endurance. For her, the gym was a place of energy, ambition, and self-discipline. One day, FN was using a treadmill placed near an open window on the upper floor of the gym. The setup seemed ordinary, safe even, just another day of training. But sometimes, even the most innocent situations can become deadly. As she stepped off the treadmill, she lost her balance. In a horrifying instant, she fell backward, tumbling out of the open window. Witnesses could do nothing but watch as she disappeared from view. Emergency responders arrived quickly, but tragically, FN did not survive the fall. What makes FN's story so shocking is how quickly a routine action can turn fatal. A single misstep, 1 second of lost balance, and the results can be irreversible. In the gym, as in life, danger often hides in plain sight. Today, we're talking about a story that's a chilling reminder of how quickly a familiar comfort can turn dangerous. Meet Mileva Brooks, a 75-year-old woman from the UK who loved her local gym. It was her happy place, a spot for exercise and socializing. The sauna was her favorite part, a warm retreat to unwind after a good workout. One afternoon, Mileva stepped into the sauna as usual, expecting to relax. But this time, the combination of the high heat and her age proved to be a fatal mix. As the minutes ticked by, she started feeling dizzy and her vision blurred. She tried to get up, but it was too late. She collapsed. Gym staff rushed to help, but tragically, Mileva couldn't be saved. The very place she went to for peace and relaxation became the scene of a terrible accident. This story is so heartbreaking because it shows that even in places we trust, a single misjudgment can have devastating consequences. Thanks for watching. On our seventh story for today is the tragic case of Akiko Belich, a 68-year-old retired teacher from Japan. Akiko had recently taken up a fitness routine at her local gym to maintain her health, focusing particularly on the steam room sessions. She believed the gentle heat would help her muscles recover, calm her mind, and provide a moment of peace in her busy life. One chilly afternoon, Akiko entered the steam room alone. The warm, heavy air enveloped her as she settled onto the wooden bench. The steam was thick, almost suffocating, but she told herself it was normal. She had done this before, and she felt comfortable in the familiar surroundings. Minutes passed. The heat intensified, and Akiko began to feel lightheaded. Her vision blurred. She tried to stand, but her legs wobbled uncontrollably. Panic set in as she realized her body wasn't responding the way it should. She collapsed onto the bench, then slid to the floor. The dense steam made it difficult for staff outside to notice the trouble until it was too late. When gym personnel finally discovered her, Akiko was unresponsive. Despite immediate CPR attempts and paramedics arriving, she tragically did not survive. The very place meant for relaxation, a sanctuary of health, had turned into a chamber of danger. What makes Akiko's story so tragic is how carefully she approached her wellness routine. She wasn't reckless, she wasn't careless. She simply misjudged the hidden dangers of an environment most would consider safe. Sometimes, even the calmest spaces can become the deadliest, and caution is never optional. On our 8th story for today is the terrifying case of Justyn Vicky, a 28-year-old competitive bodybuilder from Canada. Justyn was admired for his discipline, strength, and unyielding dedication to his craft. For him, the gym was both a sanctuary and a battleground. Every session a chance to push past limits and prove himself. One evening, Justyn decided to attempt a personal record on the bench press. The gym was nearly empty, and the only sound was the faint hum of fluorescent lights and the rhythmic clanking of weights elsewhere. Confident, he loaded the barbell heavier than he had ever lifted before. His spotter was a friend, but they miscommunicated in the rush of adrenaline and anticipation. As Justyn lowered the bar, his strength faltered for just a fraction of a second. The bar slipped from his grasp, pinning him to the bench. Time seemed to slow as he struggled beneath the enormous weight. Panic crossed his face. His friend scrambled to lift the bar, but it was too heavy, too sudden. The seconds stretched endlessly, each one amplifying the horror of the moment. By the time help arrived from the rest of the gym, Justyn had tragically succumbed to the crushing weight. What makes Justyn's story so harrowing is that he was not reckless. He was skilled, aware, and disciplined. Yet, even expertise and preparation cannot always prevent tragedy. The line between achievement and disaster is razor thin, and in a place designed for strength, weakness can be fatal. On our 9th story for today is the shocking case of George Sodini, a 50-year-old man from the United States. George was known among his friends as quiet, reserved, and obsessed with his routines. The gym was his world, a place where he could feel control over his body, even when life felt uncontrollable elsewhere. One evening, George entered the gym just before closing. The lights cast long shadows across the equipment, and the air was thick with the faint smell of rubber mats and disinfectant. He moved silently, methodical, almost invisible. But that night, something inside him snapped. No one knows exactly what triggered it. A moment of rage, frustration, or despair. But in the space of minutes, George began moving through the gym in a way that terrified everyone present. Staff and members tried to intervene, to calm him, but the situation escalated faster than anyone could react. Within moments, chaos erupted. Equipment was overturned. Chairs toppled. People fled in panic. George's obsession with control had transformed into a sudden, violent eruption of energy, leaving everyone in shock. By the time authorities arrived, the scene was catastrophic. George himself had tragically lost his life in the confusion. What makes George's story so disturbing is how quickly routine and control, two things that had defined his life, became the stage for disaster. It's a stark reminder that even familiar, trusted spaces can harbor unpredictable danger, and the human mind is sometimes the most fragile equipment of all. On our 10th and final story for today, we focus not on one person, but on a phenomenon that has tragically claimed lives in gyms around the world: sudden cardiac events. These are moments where the body, seemingly healthy, strong, and prepared, gives way in the blink of an eye. One morning at a popular urban fitness center, the gym was alive with energy. Members were jogging on treadmills, lifting weights, and pushing themselves to personal bests. Among them was Harold, a 52-year-old man training for his first marathon, and Clara, a 36-year-old mother returning to the gym after months away. Everything seemed ordinary, routine, predictable. Then, without warning, Harold collapsed near the free weights. A few seconds later, Clara slumped on the elliptical. Panic rippled through the gym. Staff rushed to help, performing CPR and calling emergency services, But the speed and severity of these cardiac events made survival a race against time few could win. Witnesses later described the scene as surreal. People trained to lift, to push, to endure, and yet, the human body betrayed them in the most shocking way. Even with immediate intervention, the fragility of life became undeniable. The gym, a place designed to strengthen and improve the body, became a reminder of how quickly life can be stolen away. Cardiac events in gyms are often invisible threats. A normal checkup, a daily routine, a healthy appearance, none of it guarantees safety. And for those who succumb, the tragedy is compounded by the irony. Death arrived in the very place they went to preserve life and strength. These 10 stories, Ronald, Yashtika, Mohammed, Delrie, FN, Mileva, Akiko, Justyn, George, and the victims of cardiac events, serve as chilling reminders. The gym is more than a place of health. It is a place where vigilance, respect for limits, and awareness of risk are as important as every rep, every lift, every stride. Thank you for watching this episode of Humans Are Whack. Remember to subscribe, comment, and stay tuned for more stories where human ambition, curiosity, and sometimes simple mistakes collide with consequences none of us could imagine. In the end, this case reminds us of something we often overlook. Danger doesn't always announce itself. It hides in routines, in familiar places, in people we think we understand. Stories like this are more than entertainment. They're lessons, warnings, reminders to stay alert and protect ourselves and the people we love. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? And what time is it right now? Drop it in the comments. I love seeing how far this community reaches. And please don't forget, like this video, share it with someone who loves true crime, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of my upcoming stories. See you next time.